My pleasure to introduce our next two speakers, Laura and Shauna from Washington State. Laura, Shauna, let's do a mic check and then switch the machine over to you.
Good morning, Ray.
Good
Morning, Ray.
Good morning, folks. And let me get this switched over to you. We'll switch over the controls. Laura, I think you're going to take control of the machine here for a little while.
Yes, that's right.
All right, sounds good. Coming to you right now.
Great, thanks, Ray.
Welcome.
There we go. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Shauna Joy. I'm the Regional Manager Coordinator for the Washington State Conservation Commission. And that means that I lead a team of regional managers that provide support and assistance to our 45 conservation districts. And that was the routine day-to-day, and then COVID-19 got real. And that need for support and leadership and guidance really amplified. And so Laura and I are here to talk to you today about how we've been responding to that need and working with our conservation districts. So Laura, I'll turn it over to you.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm the Communications Coordinator at the Washington State Conservation Commission. And as Shauna mentioned, when the pandemic hit, we knew that our conservation districts would be looking to our agency and we wanted to make sure that we had a mechanism that would allow us to quickly reach all of our 45 conservation districts during this really rapidly evolving situation. And then on top of that, despite our inability to get together in person, we didn't want to lose what we saw as a real strength to get through this emotionally draining and stressful time, which is how close-knit our conservation community is. We wanted to make sure we had platforms that would allow us to keep connected, because we feel like those relationships would really help keep our morale up. And so Sean and I are going to go over a couple ways that we have tried to do that. And the first being that we set up a page on our agency website that would allow us to share up-to-date information and resources with our conservation districts. And we set this up within the first few days of going to telework status, which in Washington was kind of early to mid-March. And within the first 5 weeks of launching this page, we had over 1,000 views. So we really think that it's been a helpful resource to provide to our conservation districts. We have the content broken into 3 sections. The first is external resources and guidance. And so what we have here is resources that are provided by external authorities, so healthcare, human resources, local government, and then also links to proclamations and orders from our state leaders to give conservation districts a clearinghouse of information about impacts to their operations. The second is we have a section on examples and templates. So here, we have 45 conservation districts, and we really didn't want them all to be having to reinvent the wheel. So, when they're having to announce a conservation district office closure, we wanted to provide templates for that so they could play around with some language, kind of have a jumping off point for that language. Have policy examples and templates for mobile work, emergency contact forms, anything that they might all be needing. We didn't want them to all have to do separately. And the nice thing about this area, it's evolved to be able to capture examples from conservation districts who have started to sort of pivot their services so that they are responding to more emergent needs during the crisis. So how are they serving farmers who may have been impacted by food system issues? How are they getting their education lessons out? We're providing links to those examples so that districts can see how their colleagues are responding. And the third section on the page is frequently asked questions. I'll turn it over to Shauna to talk about how we've been approaching those.
Thanks, Laura. You probably noticed from that first screenshot of our website that Laura showed you, there are yards and yards of paper and guidance and proclamations that have been published trying to help the public and everyone else deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. And that can be really overwhelming to try to sift through for each individual conservation district. And so what we were really trying to do with frequently asked questions was address some common issues like teleworking and the Federal Families First Coronavirus Response Act, or FSCRA, new acronym. And what does that mean to conservation districts? Really try to distill that down into a one-stop place where conservation districts could go to help them zero in on what they really needed to be thinking about. And not only, proclamations and what does that mean, but also specific issues like signatures on district-issued checks, or can a conservation district prepare paychecks in advance for regular expenses of having to send those out. And so we have a number of frequently asked questions that we've been posting, and we keep updating them. We also just, Laura updated our website 2 days ago. It's definitely been valuable to districts, and we're trying to stay on top of all those news and things like that come out that we can serve up to our districts. And beyond the frequently asked questions, there's another way that we've really been working to keep that conservation community together, and I'll let Laura talk to you some more about that.
Yeah, so we also recognize that in addition to us trying to compile and distill some of that general information and FAQs for districts, we also knew that our districts would have examples of things that they want to share with each other. And again, we just wanted to make sure that they were staying connected and knowing that they were going to get through this together. So we've launched a series of weekly conference calls. They're 1 hour every Friday, and our staff have been co-moderating these. It's really what we wanted it to be was a discussion forum for them, not for us to talk at them, but for them to connect, for them to talk about and have a forum to talk about the most pressing issues affecting them. And I'll let Shauna say a few things about how we've set that up to do that.
Yeah, our very first call, we had a litany of topics that we could choose from, but really the regional manager team in almost constant contact with our conservation districts, helping to answer questions. We take a look at what themes we're hearing from those districts. What questions are they having right now? What concerns are they having right now? And we choose a couple of topics that are timely, that we are aware of a few districts out in our community that maybe have a great idea or a great piece of work to share. And that's how we build each week's community call, is really based on what we are hearing from the conservation districts as far as need and having information to share. We've covered topics like teleworking policies. We had a really great call with districts sharing about how they were moving to more virtual platforms for education and outreach. Even some conversation around doing virtual site visits with landowners using FaceTime. Really great stuff being shared between the districts. Also talked about field work protocols. And it works really well when we've lined up at least a couple of conservation districts before each call and invited them specifically to come and share. So they're prepared. They can show us maybe if they've got a template on the screen and things like that. And Laura mentioned that two-moderator approach because no one can replace Ray Ledgerwood moderating a webinar. I'll just make a plug to you, Ray. Two of us works really well. One person to be the facilitator and mute and unmute folks when they raise their hands to talk, and another person really monitoring the questions in the chat box so that things are moving, we keep the flow going, and everybody gets heard to the best ability they can on a webinar structure. Most recently, just last week, we talked about return to work protocols, and that was super valuable to the conservation districts. We shared what we put together from the Conservation Commission, and then a number of districts shared what they were considering as well. And looking ahead, we anticipate continuing these conservation community calls, probably talking more about adapting to a new normal paradigm for work, especially field work, construction season, working with contractors this summer, things like that. So we're going to keep hosting these calls and our COVID-19 webpage for as long as our conservation district community really sees value in that service from the Conservation Commission. So with that, I'll leave it there. You can see our contact information on the screen if you'd like more details or would like to talk to us further at any time. Thank you.